Team USA obviously been so much drama. Obviously had the Hymas issue last week, him pulling out, Webb stepping up. Obviously Tomac's filling in for Sexton now. So, it was a legitimate chance of not going from a lot of reports, mate. So there's a lot to consider, obviously, before the decision was made. All the funding from Star, are they in or out? So I guess dude's given up holidays and all that. So just give us a little bit of an insight into how it all worked and how excited are you for having Tomac at the Nations, mate? It's going to be box office, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, to be honest. The Hymas thing happened, and then Webb stepped up, and I think everybody was like, okay, like AP is not his best self, but we'll be okay. Like we'll have a decent team with what we have, as long as AP can race. Sexton, Plessinger, Webb was reasonable. Is it the best team we could possibly put on the track? Probably not. It's hard to imagine a world where Deegan isn't racing that's our best team. But then Sexton goes down in Vegas, and we were very, very close to not racing for Motocross Nations. And it really came down to Tomac saying yes or no. And leaving Saturday night, leaving Vegas, I would have said it was more likely he was going to say no. It wasn't an immediate, yes, I'll step in. Yes, I'll answer the call. It was, well, we have a lot of plans. This wasn't in the plans at all. We need to think about this. I don't want to make a hasty decision. So they gave him until Monday morning, basically, to sort things out, go through all the pros and cons. And in the end, thankfully, he realized that, yeah, he needed to do this, not only for the benefits he would gain, but the team was relying on him. There are a lot of people that were, fans, and everybody were kind of like, man, we really need you in this moment. So yes, it was a really, really difficult time. There was a lot of moments where I think even people on the inside were like, I don't think we're going to race, just because nothing was lining up. We've already missed the time to ship things, and even for Webb's bike, they were going to have to air freight it on a commercial airliner. So they're going to have to do the same thing for Tomac's bike now. It's a really, really challenging set of circumstances. But in the end, if you're simply looking at the team, it's pretty solid. We'll see how Webb does. I don't know how that drop to a 250 will work. It's going to be really tough on him. But a team of Tomac, Plessinger, Webb, is a podium possible? Maybe. I don't know. I think we'll be in the mix with teams like Spain and the UK and Belgium and, a lot of teams that have a chance. I think there are favorites. I think France, Australia, Netherlands are all kind of the top tier, and we'll see who else can kind of make their mark inside of that.
Yeah, Adam, what do you think, mate? Obviously, you got some guys going down to the 250 like Webb, and you got Searle going up to the 450. Just how difficult is that transition sort of when you're not doing it all year? Is it quite tough, mate, from your perspective?
Yeah, I would say so. At that level, of course. I would say from personal experience, I guess it depends on people's style as well and stuff, but I would say it's harder, in my opinion, to go from a 250 rider to jump on a 450. Just because the 250 you can kind of like get on it and ride it like a 125 a little bit like when you've been riding a 450 all year. But on the 450 you need to respect it a lot more. A lot goes into the engine. Like can't be too fast, needs to be rideable. And yeah, them 450s they can they can bite you if you don't respect it in the right way. So but yeah, that's obviously the good thing about America. You have a lot of good riders, and obviously if Tomac is available and he can take it, then of course that's one of the first choices that you would make normally in the team. And I think that's definitely a podium contender team. But the Nations is funny. We've seen in the past with many teams. Obviously a lot of luck, good starts. The 250 riders results are really important. The weather in Matterley might play a factor in it. The good British weather, and yeah, you
Don't even
never
say
know.
it.
But
It's going to be sunny
yeah,
and really nice out.
well, it's only doing nothing but rain here in the UK at the minute, so it's
Oh,
not looking
perfect.
hopeful. But nah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll be okay. But yeah, that's a solid team, and this year I think potentially it's maybe the most stacked nations we've ever had, with a lot of teams like Slovenia with Pankar and Geyser. That's also a very good team. I think there's a lot of teams which can do really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be so fascinating. And before we get to that, I guess, JT, your take on Deegan, was there any thoughts? Do you reckon he's had any sort of regret or lamenting about the situation? Obviously, especially when you see Chance was willing to step up injured, obviously had to pull out. But I guess is it a missed opportunity to sort of grow the empire? The sponsors would have loved it, obviously, to elevate everything and, spread the word even more about the Deegan sort of situation. Mate, what's your take on that just quickly?
Yeah, I was curious. I think the way things were going, they were okay with it. They were getting some pushback, but they explained the wrist thing. I think that he could have still managed this race even with the wrist procedure. I think there was a pathway for that, which had been mapped out. But I think they were okay. But now with Tomac stepping in, who was, in my opinion, the linchpin before, I don't know. I think they're already committed to their decision and they just have to live with it. But I wonder if there was like did we make the right call here? Was that thought in their head, or did Brian and Hayden have that talk as like, maybe we should have rethought? I don't know. What's done is done. And they're doing what they think is best for them, which is most important. But it's certainly an interesting question to pose, is if they've had any regret whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be good. And obviously for you, Adam, what's your take on Team USA? Obviously starts are going to be so important, and obviously you can follow on with this afterwards, JT. But AP starts have been pretty solid of late. Tomac, when he gets that scoop on, absolutely ripping. Cooper Webb will be so instrumental that start. So what's your sort of keys to success for USA, and obviously on that Madley Basin track, which you know so well?
Obviously, yeah, the start in every race is important. I'm not sure. I know they've made a few changes to the track, but I'm not sure if the start's changed. If the start's the same as it was in previous years, then it's actually really fair. You can, apart from far outside, I'm pretty sure you can get a good start from anywhere on the gate. It's not like an Arco or Latvia where you need them inside gates. So yeah, that's going to help the 250 riders. And yeah, the track. Obviously, I didn't ride this version of it that they've made, but it seems a lot more faster, which maybe might suit the American riders a bit more. Um, but yeah, it looks good. Obviously, I'm gutted that I'm not riding there, but it is what it is, and I'm sure, well, pretty sure I'll be there anyway, supporting the boys, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it as a fan.
Yeah, JT, those starts are so key. Obviously, the Hondas with the Lawrence brothers, hopefully they'll be translating that over to the nations as well. And Kyle Webster on a pretty well factory HRC bike too. So important those starts, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think the MXGP and MX2 riders have the starts truly figured out. And I think the proof of that is every time we have this event, those guys kind of are at the front. I don't know where this will all play out, because in the US, Jet and Hunter have been pretty much untouchable on the starts. And Tomac he's done his part too as of late. So I'm very interested. I don't have a hard opinion. I kind of want to see where Jet, Hunter, Prado all kind of fall in here on the starts, because right now I think those three are arguably the best starters on the planet on 450s. And I don't truly have an opinion of who will come out. I think Prado is the favorite for the starts, just because he has such a library of work of hole shotting over his entire career, and we're going to be on familiar confines for him. And also you have to think about the material that this start will be on. These guys are more familiar with. So we have our greats, but it's different material, different compound. Those little subtle changes doesn't mean that Jet's going to start 15th. But if we think that Jet and Hunter are going to have the same exact start, I don't know. Maybe they do, but any sort of variable that comes into play is an opportunity for things to be a little bit different.
Yeah, it sort of brings everything into focus, that's for sure. And I guess continue with you, JT, then Adam afterwards. Obviously, we spoke a bit of strategy and tactics last week, JT, on the podcast. So I guess how would you sort of alter those, and who would you be given the prime positions given the team makeup of America at the moment?
It's really tough. I was pushing, say pushing, I didn't have anybody to push to, but my opinion was that they should go with Webb on the inside and Sexton outside when that opportunity arose. And then with AP, either way, probably put AP in the front again, simply because Sexton is used to coming through traffic. And I don't think a good inside gate would really benefit him, but it could very much benefit Webb. That's kind of where I came down on it. Now with Tomac in the equation, I'm not as sold on it. I still think that maybe Tomac is better to be put outside, especially if the start is the same, as Adam was saying about being more fair. But the really low result is so critical. And if Tomac feels incredibly confident on the start and he thinks he can get out front and finish somewhere in the top three, we need that score. So it's going to be a really interesting and very important strategic decision is how do they manage the starting gate positions? Because if I always lean into if you have a bad starter, don't worry about his gate pick. He's likely going to be a bad starter anyway, and try to get the best position for the guy that you need it most on the inside. So that was kind of where I was, but now with Tomac, that all kind of goes out the window. So it's something to watch for. Maybe it'll be situational. They'll kind of see who's going where. I think that's another way to play it. You see, are the preeminent teams putting their MX2 guys to the inside? Because I think you just go with the flow of that, or do they put the Prados and the Fevret? Do they put their marquee guys to the inside? In that situation, I think you have to match that. So there's a lot of strategy at this race. I think the starting positions and who goes where is one of the most underreported on, but sometimes it is maybe the most important.
Absolutely. Adam, your insights on that one?
Yeah, I feel the same as JT. It's a pretty difficult decision. I mean, I would always probably slightly favour put, especially on a fair start like Matterley with the 250 gets the better gate pick, but it all depends on the rider and the first initial way you qualify with the gate pick as well. Because I'm pretty sure, like for example, if Spain qualifies really high up, I'm pretty sure Prado or Jet can still hold shot from gate 20, 21, 22, etc. in Matterley on the start that it was before.
So I
I'm
have a
pretty
question
sure.
for you.
Yeah.
In that scenario, say Spain does well on Saturday and they qualify third or fourth, let's say. Do you still put Oliver on the inside and put Prado in the 23rd gate pick, or do you put Prado on the inside, almost guaranteeing a whole shot from him and maybe a moto win?
I would put Oriol on the inside, and I would put
Okay.
Prado still at gate 23. Just because on that start, I think he can still take a top three start from gate 20 to 23, whatever it may be, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's all. I mean, I don't know that there's a right or wrong, right? That's why it's strategy.
Because a lot of it depends where people go as well. I know people will favor the inside, but a lot of people tend to start near the box, like a lot of GPs this year. I would have 20 to etc. gate pick around this area, and I would be starting right next to Geyser. Like in Czech, in Czech Republic, I had last gate pick or second to last or third to last gate pick because my wheel broke in the qualifying race, and I ended up starting in between Geyser and Stewart or Geyser and Fevre or something like this. So it's strange.
Hunter's been doing that.
But...
Hunter's been doing that quite a bit in the US. He will go more towards the middle. And he's been getting great starts. So he's kind of the only one. He's been Tomac every once in a while, but I would say those two have been pretty consistent with going more towards the middle than that inside.
Yeah, if the start's fair and you can go in the middle and you know that you're going to beat the people out of the gate around you, then for me it's kind of a bit of a no-brainer as well, because if you start next to someone who's also a really good starter, whoever gets the handlebars in front is going to beat that guy out the start. So
yeah, I'll give you a great example of that, and where I could not believe what I was seeing was this past weekend in Las Vegas. In the first moto, right before Sexton was injured, he chose the gate right next to Jet, and Sexton's starts have been very poor. He has not been able to get out of the gate itself. They've been working on the engine, they've been working on the clutch, but nothing's really seeming to help enough. So just like you're saying, I could not understand why you would ever start next to Jet. Why? Like, go out next to, whoever. Go out next to Dean Wilson and those guys. You have a better chance of at least clearing them over the gate and being able to accelerate cleanly, because Jet's going to be in front of you almost guaranteed in the first 15 feet. And then you're double clutching and all the bad things that come with a poor start.
Yeah, and of course, then he's going to block you, and then it's going to make your start even worse. Like that, in Europe, I think you see a lot more of there's a lot more space. Like you will see guys that line up, then one gate free, then Jeffrey, then one gate free, then Fevre, then that's where I was saying before, like how I kind of in them gate positions kind of ended up slotting sometimes in between. It would be like where I'd go if I had like fifth or sixth gate pick, which is a bit strange, but obviously it's for that exact reason. If it's a possibility you can take one gate over and not start directly next to somebody, yeah, like Prado, guys, if you can leave a gate, that's much better. He would much rather start next to me, who on my bike this year is not really possible to beat guys out of the start. Then yeah, of course he would rather take that than lock bars with Prado and end up last into the first turn in a track like Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's super interesting conversation to have. And obviously, if you look at the Netherlands, one of the favourites, obviously, Hurlings has been notoriously sort of struggling with those starts. And De Wolf on the 250, obviously being a bigger guy, he's had a few issues with the starts too. So that's going to be so important to them. And I guess favourites wise, guys, we'll have a quick chat. Who at this point would you guys have given the edge to? Obviously, Fevre, Vial, Renault, winning team from last year is absolutely elite. And then the Lawrence brothers and Webster. It's really a great team too. So, Team USA is going to be up there for sure. Team Belgium, solid, even though Everts is out. Yago's replaced him. But there's just so many good riders. It's absolutely stacked. You go down the list, we've talking about Italy, Spain, even Switzerland with Siwa and Gio. So yeah, just tell us about your thoughts on, I guess, who you give the edge to at this point, JT, and then you, Adam.
So I would say that there's not a clear favorite. I think there are three, as I mentioned, kind of that top tier between Australia, France, and the Netherlands that I think all can win, and depending on weather conditions and many things. But Glenn Coldenhoff is notoriously competent at this event, particularly. Even if he's having an off year, he always finds a way to really show up at this event. So I think those three are kind of co-favorites. And then I look at kind of the next level down of the USA, Spain, maybe the UK could make it interesting on home soil, Belgium, probably missing somebody in there. Italy, maybe if they, Bonacorsi could have a great day. But I think it's really for the win, I think it's between those three, and then everyone else to try to make it interesting from there. And probably the biggest variable is the weather. If we get crazy weather, then also you can get crazy results, but kind of how I see it.
I completely agree. I think exactly the same. I think that the three that you mentioned at the front, I think are the top three. But yeah, it's the nations. Anything can happen. If I had to pick clear favourite to say who would win, I would put my money on Holland. But that's my opinion, and I guess we will see on how it is. Yeah, like I said, the track's a bit faster, might suit people how it is, but it all comes down to the start, weather. But I think them three are the favourites. I guess it depends how Webster does. I would put Australia favourite, but I'm not. I don't know him so well. I don't know how that will go down. That's why I would say Holland, in my opinion, is the favorite.
It always feels like there's kind of one question on each team that has to be answered. Like for me with France, can Renault get back to former form? Like we've seen flashes of it. Like he's looked pretty good here and there, but he needs to have a solid day, and it has not been a solid season for him. Coldenhoff for the Netherlands, can he be on his best form? We know how good he's been at this race, but this is not a 2018, 2019, 2020 type year for Coldenhoff either. So he's got to bring his best stuff. The USA, is AP going to be healthy enough? Can they rise? Can Webb ride a 250 well? There's just like, Kyle Webster for Australia. What is he going to be on a world stage like this? Like we saw him ride really well at Redbud, but Matterley is much more difficult, in my opinion, to ride than Redbud. Redbud is incredibly conducive. There's traction. It's an easy track to feel comfortable on. Matterley is going to be an entirely different situation, and the amount of pressure that I think Webster's going to feel on the team with Jet and Hunter, I don't think he's probably ever felt before. So it's like each team has their own situation and problem to work around, and it's just who can manage that the best. That's, to me, how this race kind of always comes down to. And the years where nobody has a question, they typically dominate. Like they're not, the Netherlands has killed everyone in years. France has killed everyone in years. Those are when they have their best team. Everybody's firing on all cylinders. It feels like everyone this year kind of has a question around their team. Can they rise to the challenge?
Yeah, and I guess that's obviously what everybody loves about the nations and why it's such an interesting event. Another note on when you said about Webster as well. Having rode Matterley, of course, many times, that's one of the most difficult tracks if you've not rode it before to learn it because there's so
Right.
many different jumps. Then, of course, when it's wet and a bit, the ruts.
The ruts are
It's one of the most difficult
really
tracks to
difficult. Yeah.
learn from the off. Yeah, and
Yeah. Some of the,
it's quite a daunting track, as in a lot of the jumps look a lot bigger than they look when you watch it on the TV before. And
yeah.
to ride at that highest level, like where you need the points of a second to push at the absolute max what you need at that level, you need to have the track completely dialed with the jumps, with scrubbing and the quad and all these
Yeah.
factors. And to learn that track in that short space of time is going to be difficult.
I look at some of the sections like after you jump the quad and then you come across the top and it drops down into that right, all those
Yeah.
ruts, like through those sections, a long right hand rut, and then you come across back parallel to that section through ruts and then drop down to the
Yeah.
left and more ruts. Like all those, if you don't have everything sorted and your balance and blow through those ruts, yeah, I've watched it personally and like I would be so terrible in this section. So those are the things about so challenging about that racetrack and why I compare it to Redbud. I mean, Redbud's incredibly iconic as far as a racetrack, but it's fun to ride. Like there's not anything where like, oh, I can't figure out how to go through this section. It's almost kind of easy to ride, where Matterley, I think, is just so challenging on so many fronts. But yeah,
Yeah.
especially a first time. And that's before, when this Motocross of Nations topic for this year first came up, everybody's like, well, if we have we have Tomac and we have Sexton and we have Deegan, like that team can go win. I'm like, yes, but keep in mind, Deegan's never raced overseas. Sexton has not raced this race overseas, only in the U.S. And yeah, Tomac's got to get back to his best self. And then when Hymas came in, he's never raced overseas. I'm like, that track, that environment, it's all going to be first time experiences for all these guys. And even Plessinger this year has never raced this track either. So it's not going to be easy. And I think that gets lost in the fray. So I'm really glad you mentioned it, is just that track learning experience when you're racing in a facility that is constantly on the MXGP schedule. These guys have so many laps on it and they have their bike settings and they know exactly what it's going to be even before they show up. That's really hard to go up against in a one weekend scenario.
Yeah, another difficult thing about Matterley as well is, have you seen any of the pictures of the new layout or
Not the
not?
new one, no. I've just watched it a million times.
Just like now it comes up like where you do the quad, and then now it goes like straight right, and then straight into the wave section. So I think you're gonna maybe be able to quad. Looking from the picture, I'm not sure. But a lot of things with Matterley, you end up jumping, so it's in that valley. And especially in the second motos, or second and third motos as it is in the nations, second motos of the GP, you tend to not be able to see a lot from the sun, which is also extremely difficult, especially when if you're not 100% familiar with the track, when you go up to the jump completely blind. And then, yeah, you know how it is when you can't see with the sun. It's like you're waiting for the takeoff, and then you see the takeoff, and then you kind of judge with your speed. But that's also another difficult thing. You end up jumping a lot into the sun, and a lot of the jumps end up being blind.
Yeah, that low sun in October is not much fun for the last moto of the day. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's awesome insight, lads. And there's obviously so many variables, and it's great, this conversation. And I guess with Webster, another point on that, obviously racing the 450 in the Pro MX and in those races in America, obviously won the Pro MX title. He suffered a hand injury in that finale in Pro MX, which he's recovered from, but he sort of ended up, battling through to finish level on points with Beaton, but won on more wins. But yeah, he's usually a solid starter. But yeah, like we were saying, another guy that's going off his preferred platform to the 250. So he's obviously been doing the prep in Florida for many weeks with the Lawrence brothers and all that, testing the bike, and he's got a great bike. But yeah, it's going to be a really big challenge for him